Okay, so let's go ahead and cover, well, more X Factor comics on the channel. Guys, we're getting close to the very end of our coverage for X Factor until Marvel goes ahead and release the rest of the books digitally. But with that being said, we're going to cover a two-part story arc where it is now technically Sabretooth joining X Factor. Because remember, when it came to X Factor in the early 1990s, they were a team that was put together by the government. And when it came to government, they said, hey, our main goal is to build the relations between the humans and the mutants. So for X Factor, your government team. Now, by this point, Forge is the official leader of the team. But when it came to some higher ranking people in the government, they told Val Cooper, we want Sabretooth on X Factor. Like, you guys have Mystique on the team as well. And so for Val Cooper, she had no choice but to go ahead and say yes and go with the new deal. But as we get into the opening pages of this video, we do pick up with Val Cooper calling into the base of X Factor. Now, she believes at first that she is talking to Forge. And matter of fact, she has some very important information that she only wants Forge to know about. Like, for example, who had attacked Mystique. Now, that was a major plot line back in X-Men Prime. X-Men Prime was this special issue that came right out of Age of Apocalypse. The main goal of that issue was to kind of set everything up for all the different X books at that time. And so for X Factor, it was kind of like a mystery, like who attacked Mystique, but also because Havoc's powers were also going crazy in that issue, that plot line became a tad bit more important than her attacker. But for Val Cooper, it's her saying that she had finally learned who attacked Mystique back in that storyline. And so she tells Forge she's on her way. Now, once the call ends, we do learn here that no, Forge was never there, that Val Cooper was talking to Mystique. Now, let's not forget that when it came to Mystique around this time in Marvel Comics, yes, she was on X Factor, but technically she was a prisoner of the government. And let me explain, because for Forge, what he did was he put a chip on her mind. And with that chip, she was not allowed to change her form into other people on the team, or really anybody who's part of the X family. So X-Men, X Factor, Excalibur, and the list goes on. But with that being said, she could change other people who were part of the X family, but only for like 5 or 10 seconds. And so when it came to Val Cooper, when she believed that she was having a hard time connecting to Forge, who was Mystique pretending to be Forge, in reality, it was her to turn the call off and on, so that every single time she had to change back into her regular form. By the time the call came back online, she would change back into Forge once again to make Val Cooper believe that she was talking to Forge. Now, when it came to this issue, it was when I realized like most of the original government form of X Factor team is gone. Strong Guy's gone, Wolfbane, Quicksilver, Havoc. Like, all you have now is Polaris and a bunch of new characters on this X Factor team. But it's also her kind of training with Wild Child. Now, while you have the two characters out together training, you do have the two characters find Val Cooper and a bunch of soldiers all tied up and taken out. And so that right there tells us Mystique got the info she needed from Val Cooper, and now she is gone. Now, we're kind of also wrapping up the whole plot line going on with Naze and also Forge. The whole idea of that the Adversary was trying to come back into this reality and destroy the entire universe. But you had Forge being able to take out Adversary, and so the universe is safe once again. So it's Naze saying like, listen, I'm going to leave. And don't worry, our paths should cross again. But for right now, just know I'm out there waiting for the right time to reconnect with you. But now we kind of get into the whole main plot line of the story, where you now have X Factor trying to track Mystique. Now for Forge, he's kind of like, okay, you know what? I gotta make a better chip to kind of block her abilities when it comes to her changing the form to look like us, people part of the X family. But you do have the team head over to this facility. Now, Forge wants to know what information that Val has to share so important to Forge. Now for Val, she says, not right now. Like right now, our main goal is to find Mystique. You and I can talk later about the info that I had received. And so now we transition over to Mystique. Now, when we do, it's really more her arriving to this government facility that's on the Canadian border. Now, when she arrives, most of the people who work there have been officially taken out. So you're kind of left to wonder, who in the world got cut loose inside this facility? But for Mystique, her main goal is to find the person who had taken her out back in X-Men Prime. And ever since that moment, that person has kind of been in her nightmares. Now, technically, she did not see the person, but she still wants to find the person to take that guy out. And so you have Mystique go deeper and deeper into the facility. Now, for X Factor, they do arrive, but the problem is that when they do arrive, they also find all these dead bodies. Now, for Wild Child, he has picked up on the scent of Mystique, but also another scent, somebody who smells familiar. But for our heroes, they have no choice. They have to get ready, go inside this facility, hopefully find Mystique, but also find the person who was responsible for attacking her back in X-Men Prime. Now, when we jump back over to Mystique, we see that she has been captured by Sabretooth. Now, Sabretooth is working for X Factor, but really working more for the government like the rest of the team. And so he was kind of given a mission to go over to this facility. Now, for Mystique and Sabretooth, we cannot forget that these two characters got a pass with one another, because remember, they have a child together. That will be Great and Kree. Now, with all that being said, for Sabretooth, he's not the one who attacked Mystique back in X-Men Prime. It's a different character. But while you do have the two characters talking to one another, well, X Factor does arrive. And this is where you have X Factor truly find out that Sabretooth is now part of their team. Now, Val Cooper has not had the chance to tell Forge nor the rest of the team that piece of information. And so at first, they don't believe in the idea that Sabretooth is part of their team now. But you do have Val Cooper kind of confirm, like, no, he's on the team. Now, let's not forget, there is some security placed on Sabretooth to kind of make sure that he stays in line. Like, for example, every single time he tries to be aggressive towards somebody, well, there's this collar on his neck. It's going to shock him every single time he tries to make a move on somebody on the team. Now, that being said, for Val, she wants to know about this facility because she had no idea about this place. But for Sabretooth, he says, listen, you guys were supposed to never find out about this place at all. And matter of fact, because you guys are here, you guys have to die. And so as the first chapter closes, we're seeing Sabretooth begin to attack his brand new teammates. But see, as we dive into the next chapter, we're really picking up with our heroes finding out that Sabretooth does not plan on attacking them, but instead plans on attacking a character known as Hound. Now, when it comes to Hound, he was a mutant that was turned into, well, a hound, to be used as a way to hunt down other mutants. Now, the reason why he went after Mystique, well, yes, it was his mission, but he also believed the possibility that Mystique might know who is responsible for turning him into, well, a hound. And so that's why he was her attacker. Now, for our heroes, they're beginning to realize that the way Hound is that he is able to analyze the situation, analyze other mutant abilities, and find the best outcome to make sure that he is the winner in the battle. And so at first, for our heroes, they do kind of struggle when it comes to fighting against Hound. Now, thanks to Polaris, she does buy our heroes some time when it comes to fighting against him by just dropping some debris on top of him. But right after all of that, you didn't have Forge say, you know what, it's time for us to go ahead and learn more about this facility. And so it's Forge saying, let me go ahead and hack into the system. Now, Sabretooth says, I cannot allow you to do that. And the reason why, because I was told by the government to make sure that you don't find out anything going on with this place. Now, for Val Cooper, she's very confused because Sabretooth is part of X Factor. But he says, listen very carefully. Why do you think I was sent here by myself, but not with you guys for? Because they wanted to make sure that you guys don't find out about this place. But on top of that, if you think you can stop me, just know right now the collar is not on. Because again, they wanted to make sure that you guys did not find out about this place. But while you have our heroes away from their base, they don't know that someone's trying to break into the base and hack into Forge database. Now, there is one member of the team who stayed behind, and that would be Shard. Now, Shard is the sister of Bishop, but she's a hologram because the real Shard had died many years ago in Bishop's timeline. But Shard still has the ability to be a fighter, a character who can protect the place while the team is gone. And so, for these two guys who broke into the base, well, they're confronted by Shard and she takes them out just like that. Now, as we transition back over to X Factor, they're still fighting against Hound, and unfortunately, they're having a hard time bringing him down. Now, it's also him kind of telling our heroes he's a mutant, which we already covered that part, but it's also us kind of seeing Polaris just cut loose, because in an earlier storyline, you have Polaris mention the fact that she's kind of tired of holding back, and so it's now her saying, like, it's time for me to show you guys how powerful I truly am. And so we see Polaris being able to take down Hound, but while you have her doing that, you have Forge go out of his way to try to hack into the system to learn more about this facility. The problem is that while he's trying to do that, he's then confronted by some people who work for the government. Now we kind of learn who's behind the whole idea of the Hound program, and that would be Graydon Cree, because remember, around this time in Marvel Comics for Graydon, he is trying his best to run for president, to begin the process of getting rid of mutants. Now, even though his parents both are mutants, Sabretooth and also Mystique, for him he's kind of like, I don't care. They gotta go. We also learned that it was him who sent Hound on the mission to go after Mystique in the first place, to hopefully kill off his mother, because she holds a lot of information that could bring down his whole entire plan. And so you do have Graydon Creed meet up with another character who's kind of like, hey, listen, don't worry. I will try my best to deal with your mother, but your goal is to focus on winning this election. And so you had the story kind of wrap up very quickly here, because as you jump back over to X Factor, you have the government come in, take Hound away, and pretend they have no idea what's going on. And you have Val Cooper want to know what exactly is going on at this facility, but every single person's kind of like, no, you cannot know what in the world is going on here. Now for Val Cooper, she is somebody who's not going to quit that easily. And so 2 days later, she brings over Senator Kelly to hopefully get some information about what's going on at this facility. The problem is that when they arrive there 2 days later, they don't find a government building. They find a farm. And so it's kind of like, okay, you know what? This is the government trying their best to hide all their secret projects they have planned for the mutant race, just in case things do pop off between mutants and humans down the road.